So if a kid is interested in horror movies, what's a good movie to start with?
Ooh. And when you say kid, what age are you saying? Like
My
14?
age, 14, 13 to 14.
13 to 14. Jeez. You know, because like I said, I came out right off the bat like John Carpenter style. You know, for me, like the old school stuff, I think is very cool. Like going with the John Carpenter movies, go with like, Halloween because it's very cool. Go with The Thing, because it has cool practical effects and it's really scary, but it's really well made. Um, Yeah, I mean, I would go with the old school stuff, and like the fun movies. Even the Nightmare on Elm Streets are so awesome because they are so like out of this world and so weird that you can, kind of get a good laugh out of it. And it's not set in a reality. I think that's a lot of fun. And the practical effects, I think, is what's amazing too, because a lot of people nowadays rely so much on CGI. When you can see movies that actually have more practical effects, I think that's better because they really see the craftsmanship of how movies are made and how much hard work went into these things.
So, you said that you were a fan of film scores. Uh, who is your favorite composer? And do you have a favorite score from them?
I gotta say, I'm such a fan of Hans Zimmer right now. Like, I love all that stuff. I love all the Dark Knight stuff that he did. The Dune score is super cool. I like Alan Silvestri, like all that, like the older movies like that. John Williams, obviously, the Raiders of the Lost Ark stuff. That he's just iconic. It's all those. There's so many I could talk about because each composer has a different style, and it really depends on what you're kind of like thinking or what you want to get into. I really enjoy John Carpenter's score because he does it himself, and for me that's kind of another iconic sound, that whole style that he did in his movies. It just depends on the tone of what you want to do, But I would say right now for me, and I just love the Hans Zimmer stuff. I think it's just so cool because he has a mix of electronic stuff and like listen to the Gladiator soundtrack. How awesome is that? It's so good and powerful. And he just has such a different range of different movie styles, and they're just all different.
So, do you prefer working with film or digital?
So I used to be a super digital hater, like because I started in film, and I was like, I felt like kind of a film snob. I started as was not when I was operating, it was all film. Put your eye on the eyepiece, and you had the smell of film when you had to reload, the way it looked, the grain that you would get in certain textures. Digital came and kind of made it feel a little cheap at first. And so you'd be like, oh yeah, this looks like crap. We should shoot this on film, blah blah blah. But as technology changes, and as houses can there's like Company 3 or places like that color your films that can add the texture to digital. And also as a director, when you're shooting film, you basically have to go, okay, hey, how was that to the operator? And because they're the ones with the eye in the eyepiece, they know if it's going to be sharp or not, if it's out of focus or whatever. Because sometimes low light, it's hard to tell. And you kind of have to trust who you have working behind the camera. And then you get the dailies like the next day and you watch the dailies. And then the next day, you're already on the next sets, you're already having to do other things. And if you get a scene or some shots that came back soft focus, it was a real bummer. Cut to now with digital, you can go, oh, that was so cool, man. I hope we got that. Okay, can I see playback? Boop. You watch the scene. Oh, yeah. Cool. Oh, it's in focus. Great. Or, oh, it wasn't in focus. We got to go again. So there's a convenience to digital that I think that I've now accepted that I like a lot better. And it's not as much as a risk as shooting film, even though I still think film looks awesome. There's the convenience of digital. And I think that in post, you can make your movies look however you want them. If you have a certain idea of how you want to light it at first, you can always go in post and pretty much tweak it how you want, adding film grain, texture, all that stuff, changing colors. You can do it all.
So you mentioned with effects how a lot of fans prefer practical. Which do you prefer, CGI or practical?
I prefer practical, but I'm not opposed to adding CGI to practical. I think that it actually is a good thing to do, because sometimes, for instance, there's things in Studio 666. Everything's practical in Studio 666. But that was also going in shooting certain things that we knew we were going to have to digitally enhance. There's some things in there that you know, we just didn't have the time or the money to create like certain practical creatures. So we would make them, but some things just weren't on there. But we had a practical, it's hard to talk about without being able to tell you what it is, just so you know. But it's, there's like certain, like, so we had other things that were practical that we shot, and we would overlay it onto another thing on there. So everything was practical, but some things had to become like a green screen shot to mix into what we had already shot to make it work. So it's a practical CG'd on top of each other to make it work sometimes. But the blood and the gore in the movie, it's full on practical. The things that we did, totally. And that was it. We did everything as practical as possible until you couldn't.
So you've worked on a few zombie movies, including Zombieland Double Tap. So true or false, the zombies in the movie Heavy Metal are terrifying?
The movie Heavy Metal, like the cartoon?
Mm-hmm.
In the plane? Are you talking about
Yes.
the sequence in the plane? Oh, absolutely horrifying. Like that's like to me, that's one of the best sequences in Heavy Metal, is that whole sequence with the bombers and the zombies come to life. It's so scary. I think those are scary.
So do you prefer?
Funny you mentioned that, because that cartoon scared me to death as a kid, because talking about things that you shouldn't see, I'm going to go back to what we were talking about. I remember turning HBO on one night as a little kid and seeing a cartoon on late at night. And I was like, what's this? It's a cartoon. Cartoons aren't supposed to be on right now. And the Lochnar comes in and melts the kid's dad at the very beginning. And I'm like totally tripping, like, whoa, what is this? Because in a cartoon, I've never seen anything like that happen. And it was so scary when it approaches the kid, it starts telling the stories, and it goes on and on about all this weird stuff. As like a kid seeing that, it kind of blew my mind, actually. So it's funny you mentioned Heavy Metal.
So do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
Fast. Slow zombies, forget about it. Like, slow zombies are not scary. Fast zombies, scary as hell.
Agreed.
100%. Yeah.
Are there more songs written about love, lust, or heartbreak?
Jeez. Wow, that's a hard question. I think I always go for the darker, so I think heartbreak. But I would probably say there's a lot of almost similar material in each one of those. But I tend to like to hear the songs about people being bummed out about being dumped or things like that, because I like the darker edge of things. I like when things go dark. Even dark endings of movies make me happy.
So this last question is Sophie's choice. Which would you keep and the other two get killed off? Would you keep Snake Plissken, McCready, or Jack Burton?
Ooh, God. Ooh, I think. Oh, that's so hard. Okay. So I'm gonna go. I hate to say this. This is a question where, like, no matter how I say it, people will be like, "Oh, hell no." Jack Burton, I think, is gone. I think he's killed off. If McCready and Snake Plissken, ooh, that's a hard toss up, because they're totally two different kind of characters. But I'm gonna kill off. Oh God, I hate to answer this. I'm gonna kill McCready off, because Snake Plissken is such a tough guy. I think we always need him in the corner. I think we always need him. Yeah. So I'm gonna keep Snake Plissken, and he's also one of the first introductions to John Carpenter films. So there's a soft spot in my heart for that character.
So I had such a great time speaking with you. Is there anything you'd hoped I'd asked? Anything you want to add or ask me?
No, I just think that keep on watching horror films, and I think what you're doing is really cool. You know, I think it's really important for especially your generation to really keep horror films alive and keep things going and really show an interest in it, because really this is if you let it be, it's a very fun genre of filmmaking. And I think that, as you being 14 years old, I see myself in how you are. And, now you have access to all these cool things like Zoom, and you can talk to people. I never had that kind of access to be able to do that kind of stuff. I just ran around with my buddies and made, my own horror films with VHS cameras and tried to edit with 2 VCRs. It was the worst thing you've ever seen. And you guys have all this technology. So at the age that you are now, you can get into all you want. You can learn how to edit. You can start making your own horror films, and you can make things that look cool because you actually have access to cool cameras. So I say you guys are the next generation, and at such an age, you guys can make it start happening, you know, and really show us old timers how awesome horror films you guys can make, and just show us up. That's what I want to see. I want you guys to show us all up, all us old dudes.
So thank you for sitting down with me. I can't wait to see Studio 666, which comes out on February 25th.
Yep.
It's been really a pleasure.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. I had a great time. You asked some really good questions that I've been answering. I've been talking to a bunch of press like the last couple of weeks, and your questions have been really fun because they're just totally different. I didn't expect some of these questions, so I had to think.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Dax.
Hi, I'm Dax, and this is What's Under the Bed, where I interview filmmakers, actors, and guests about horror movies. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell to know when a new episode drops. If there's someone you think I should interview, please let me know in the comments.